From WFRV TV, Local 5, serving Northeast Wisconsin, including Green Bay, Fox Cities, and the Lakeshore. This is Newsmaker Sunday.
Good morning. Welcome to Newsmaker Sunday. I'm Tom Zalaski. This morning, a growing health problem in the United States that will probably impact you and your family someday if it hasn't already, and that is dementia. This morning, we are joined by two people on the front lines of treating and caring for those with dementia. And they come armed today with information not just for the patient, but for family members who inevitably become caregivers. Joining me this morning, two representatives of St. Paul Elder Services in Kaukauna and Green Bay. Becky Reichelt is the Executive Vice President of St. Paul's to my immediate right, and Courtney Tiener is the Director of the Memory Care Resource Center and Passages Program at St. Paul Elder Services. Ladies, good morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning.
Before we get into the nuts and bolts and statistics here, let me just run past you each of your particular organizations and what role you play. An overview, if you would, Becky, of St. Paul's Elder Care.
Sure, you bet. St. Paul Elder Services is the primary campus is located in Green Bay, on our in Kaukauna.
Okay.
And on our Kaukauna campus, we have a full continuum of services for people who are living with dementia or that need support to live in an environment that can best meet their needs. So on that campus, we have St. Paul Home, which is our skilled nursing facility, which also includes a rehab area for people who come to us for just a short-term stay, and then they transition back to wherever they call home. We also have two types of assisted living communities, one that's designated for people who are living with dementia. We have our own St. Paul Hospice program, and then we also have a huge variety of services for people who still live in their own homes out in the community through our home and community-based services, and that includes many of the programs that Courtney helps to direct through our Memory Care Resource Center, and then we also have our Life Enrichment Center where additional programs are offered as well.
And Courtney, Memory Resource Center, what is that all about?
So the Memory Care Resource Center is really a spot for people who are still living at home that have memory loss to come for the day. They participate in respite programs, but also it serves as a place for their caregivers to come to get those resources, get those support services that they might need. We have a variety of support services that we offer both for the individual that has dementia as well as their caregiver.
And how long have you been in operation?
Oh, St. Paul Elder Services has, we just celebrated 80 years of caring in the Kaukauna community, yes.
And what do you have for staff?
We have about 450 staff between both campuses, yes, yeah. The majority of them, of course, in our Kaukauna campus, which is much larger, and about 60 or so of our staff that work in our Green Bay campus, which is McCormick Assisted Living.
And do you rely on volunteers at all?
We do,
You
we
do?
do. We have probably well over 100 volunteers across both campuses, and we really can't do our work without them. We are so reliant on those volunteers to provide that extra level of engagement and connection and really those one-on-one opportunities for support or prayer or going for a walk when it's nice out.
You are a 501c3.
Yes.
Your service is important and not inexpensive. How do people cover these costs? What are people mainly doing?
Sure, there's a variety of options to cover the expense of the services. So, you know, people hear of the traditional Medicare that may cover a short-term stay. People can pay privately for our services. We also accept medical assistance or family care funding. We have services available where Veterans Administration may pay for some of those services. We have opportunities, especially for those who live in the community. There are some state and national dollars to support caregivers so that they can get that needed respite, and then those dollars support the respite services that we offer on our campus.
All right, we're talking Alzheimer's dementia. I want to throw something up on the screen here to give people just some idea of the magnitude of what it is we're dealing with here. Here are some of the numbers. National Institutes of Health says 6.7 million Americans 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's dementia. The number could reach 13.8 million by 2060 unless there is some sort of medical breakthrough. In 2019, More than 120,000 people died of dementia-related issues. It is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States, 5th leading cause of death in people 65 and older. Between the years 2000 and 2019, while stroke, heart disease, and HIV deaths decreased, Alzheimer's dementia deaths, get this, up 145%. 11 million family members and unpaid caregivers provided 18 billion hours of care in 2022 at a value of $339 billion. That doesn't include the emotional and mental and physical distress on those caregivers. And in 2013, healthcare costs for people 65 and older with Alzheimer's dementia, $354 billion. Amazing statistics. Becky, Courtney, how many people can you serve at one time? You've got a big staff, 400 people. Mm-hmm. How many people do you serve either on your campus or at home?
Yeah, there are hundreds of people that we serve, and we have numerous people that live on our campus in our nursing home and in our assisted living communities, but also hundreds of people that use our community-based services through Club Gabriel, which is our certified adult day service program, through Courtney's program, which are called Memory Connections and Reflections, that we'll hopefully talk a little bit more about later. We provide also a slew of other type of community programs, home care, hospice, transportation services. So, our goal is to support people wherever they live in the community, if it's on our campus or out in our community, to really meet those needs for them.
And for those who are on your campus, is there an average length of stay that you would expect a person to stay?
That kind of varies as well, too. I would say over these years, I've been at St. Paul Elder Services for 15 years. Over the years, I would say the length of stay has probably decreased, and primarily that reason is because people are wanting to stay at home longer. So they want to be at home with supportive services because most of us feel most comfortable in our home. So the length of stay is probably shorter than it was 15 years ago.
We have much more to come, much more on dementia, how it affects a family, and how to get help. So please stay right there. Back now with Becky Reichelt and Courtney Tiener of St. Paul Elder Services. We are talking dementia this morning. Let me go to square one. If I suspect grandma, grandpa, mom, or dad exhibiting early stages of dementia, what are the signs of dementia compared to just plain old age forgetfulness?
Yeah, that's a good question, because some people think Alzheimer's disease or other related dementias are a normal part of aging, and they certainly aren't. Yeah. There are some normal age-related forgetfulness. Our brain is our muscle, so all of our muscles change as we grow older, so certainly our brain does as well. But one of the key factors that we like to share, if memory or other cognitive functioning is impacting somebody's daily routine or the things that they do regularly, then that's something to be concerned about. So if we're seeing people having more difficulty taking care of themselves personally, or forgetting how to get to a grocery store that they've shopped at for 50 years, the things that impact their daily functioning is something that probably should be checked. So we encourage people to really get a good diagnosis process to really ensure that we're identifying what could be some of those reasons for that memory change.
Yeah. I know you're not doctors. Is there a basic difference between Alzheimer's and Parkinson's?
Yeah, there are two different types of conditions, diseases, but both of those diseases potentially could cause dementia. So dementia is a general term. Dementia itself isn't a disease. Dementia has symptoms such as memory changes, language changes, problem-solving difficulties, things that would impact somebody's daily routine.
If you suspect a loved one is exhibiting these signs, and it's a frightening thought, what's my first step? What do I do?
I always encourage families, if they're starting to notice some of these changes, the first thing you should do is go see your doctor, because sometimes there could be other causes, other things that are leading to these changes in cognition that we would want to have ruled out first. And then you can go through that good assessment and just medical workup to see if these changes are something that could be related to changes that are happening in our brains or other medical issues.
And is it a good idea or a bad idea to express to that loved one, I think something's wrong?
I think it's a good idea.
Yep.
I think it's the approach that we use. So I would approach it more as a caring, concern approach. So an example might be, I've noticed that it's taking you a little bit longer to come up with some of those words that you want to express. Or I noticed that recently you've forgotten the last 3 times that we were supposed to go to church together. Do you notice those things? Are they concerning to you? So not put a blame or not to say, I think you have Alzheimer's disease, but really in a caring, compassionate way to support that person.
That conversation can be a lot like, Mom, it's time to take the car keys away.
That's another difficult conversation, yes.
You get that fight. As the dementia progresses, what am I going to start to see? What little signs will I look for and go, yep, there it is, there it is?
Right. I mean, everyone progresses differently and at different rates and different stages, and that's what can make it so challenging sometimes for caregivers, because we really want to be able to provide them with this roadmap. Once you start seeing this type of change, then this is what's coming next, or this is what's happening. And ultimately, everyone's disease progresses at a different rate. But likely, sometimes if you see some changes in communication or their abilities to find words, those types of things, as people progress into the middle stages, those things would start being more prominent. Oftentimes, things that are present early on just are the things that will continue to progress at a rate.
Yeah. Again, I know you're not doctors. Do you have any idea, theories on the cause?
You know, there's lots of kind of exciting research right now looking at that, especially with our new era of treatment, which is really a great focus that the Alzheimer's Association is having on recognizing that there's positive research and support and new medications in the treatment for Alzheimer's disease. So just like many other diseases, the researchers and scientists believe that there's probably multiple causes of Alzheimer's and the other types of dementias. Right now, some of the focus is really looking at abnormal buildup of protein in the brain that affects the connections between the brains, the neurons. So that's one of those areas of research right now in focus.
Do you find it concerning? I sure did when I saw those numbers that we read. Dementia deaths up 145%. Any idea why do we think this is on the increase? We're doing so much research, and yet it's still, blossoming.
Yeah, and likely because the biggest risk factor for Alzheimer's disease and other dementias is age, and our population is aging. About 10% of people over age 65 and about almost 50% of people over age 85 are living with Alzheimer's related diseases. So that's likely some of those reasons with an aging population.
We have much more to come on Alzheimer's and dementia, so please stay right there. Back now with Becky Reichelt and Courtney Keener of St. Paul Elder Care. Courtney, a couple of programs you had mentioned earlier, your memory care connections and memory reflections. What are those 2 programs?
So those programs are part of our home and community-based Passages programs. Our Passages program is our continuum of dementia care services within our campuses. And those programs really are for individuals that are still living at home that have memory loss or dementia, but come to our facility, our organization, for a day program, a respite program. So the benefit of those programs really is twofold. It's an opportunity for those individuals who have a type of dementia to come to the programs to engage, be active, be social, but it also gives their caregivers that much needed respite time. So Memory Connections is really a program that's specifically designed for individuals who are at the early stages of their journey. Maybe they just started experiencing some of those symptoms that we mentioned earlier, or received a diagnosis. So they come to our group to really focus on some of those brain enhancement activities to try to maintain where they are at cognitively and learn skills to keep them as independent as possible for as long as possible at home. And because dementia is a progressive disease, we know that there will come a time that they no longer benefit from that specific type of programming, Memory Connections. So then we would look at transitioning them to Memory Reflections, which is a very similar program. We do a lot of the same types of activities and engagements, but the way that we facilitate those programs are just a little bit different because we know that those participants might need a little bit more prompting, a little bit more cueing, just to be those active participants.
You just ran a program, a workshop with the Appleton Police Department for caregivers. There was a topic that came up that I didn't even know was a topic. Safety tips for the caregiver and the person with dementia. What are safety issues that we got to consider here?
I think anytime when somebody is living with dementia and still living at their home, there's a wide range of things that caregivers should be considering, should be thinking about. Obviously, we know that there can be some gait changes that happen, so maybe increased risk of falls at home, thinking about how we can have our homes be safer for that. Other things that we think about is, people going for walks and maybe forgetting how to get home or wandering, and different safety tips or ideas, monitors to help them so that caregivers can locate their loved ones if they would.
You also covered police dementia response. What's that?
Yeah, so there's a group of us who have worked closely with different police departments to help them go through a training to encourage them to understand how to best interact with individuals living with memory loss or dementia.
Because how would a cop know what they're up against when they come to the door?
Right.
Yeah, and we really want them to be able to have the tools to know how to respond, to know how to effectively communicate with anyone living with dementia, and understanding that it is a different type of response than other emergency situations that they might be in.
And you dealt with Silver Alert. How did you approach that?
So we talked a little bit about Silver Alerts for families. Obviously, we hope that no family ever has to go through something like that, issuing a Silver Alert. Silver Alert is a national program. There are certain criteria that people have to have in order for a Silver Alert to be issued. It's very similar to an Amber Alert that people might be more familiar with. The individuals have to have a type of dementia, Alzheimer's disease, or another cognitive impairment. There has to be reason to believe that they're missing due to that cognitive impairment.
Yeah.
And there has to be sufficient enough information to be able to disseminate to the public. So if a caregiver is ever concerned that their loved one is missing or has wandered away from home and they're not able to come back, or maybe they drove to the grocery store and now they're not back, and they would want to issue a Silver Alert, they would just call their local police department, and then the police department would elevate that to the state level.
Okay, and finally, what's the Purple Tube Project?
Yeah, Purple Tube is a great opportunity for caregivers to interact with and have a communication tool to interact with people who respond in an emergency situation. So within the Purple Tube, they gather all of this information, a safety plan, tips for interacting with my loved one, how to communicate most efficiently with my loved one, roll all of that information up into a Purple Tube. It goes into their refrigerator. Likely when the emergency responders come to their home, they'll see this purple dot that's on their door jamb and say, oh, somebody in this house is living with dementia. I'm going to go look in the refrigerator so I can gather all of this information.
It's literally a purple tube.
It is. It is.
Wow. We are back to wrap up right after this. Please stay right there. Back now with Becky Reicheld and Courtney Tiener of St. Paul Elder Care. With the remaining time we have, I want to touch on two topics, family support and caregiver support. Let each of you take whichever one.
As you can imagine, as we've been talking and sharing that on our campus we have numerous continuum of services for persons living with dementia, and a huge part of the success of supporting somebody living with dementia are our caregivers, are our staff, our associates that do whatever thing that they can do possible to build that connection and that relationship to the residents and tenants and patients that we serve. So we're very proud. Courtney described a little bit about our Passages program. A huge part of that Passages program is ensuring that we are giving the resources, the education, the role modeling, the appreciation of our staff to provide that best support to somebody who's living with dementia who lives on our campus. So we do spend quite a bit of time providing that education and training, the best way to engage somebody living with dementia so they feel comfortable and safe. The best way to provide support so that the persons who are living with dementia have that sense of a purposeful living, and they have the ability to be able to use their life story to really have that success in the moment. So really creating those amazing moments of joy for somebody living with dementia.
And Courtney, family care.
Yeah, so we have a lot of extra support services, again, for helping those caregivers, providing them with resources. We have 2 different caregiver support groups that we have, as well as a book club. I also do a lot of community education programs. I find that those can be very helpful. Sometimes families aren't quite ready to join a caregiver support group or talk about their loved one or talk about the disease process. They want to just listen and learn and understand what might be coming or what resources are available to them in the community. So we want to ensure that whether somebody is caring for somebody living on our campus or caring for somebody still living in the community, that we're able to provide that support to them.
Got about 30 seconds. You're helping everybody else. How do people help you?
Yeah, you know, I think living that same mission, recognizing that persons who are living with dementia have a huge sense of purpose. They have life remaining. I think there's a huge stigma of persons with dementia have lost who they are. So if everybody can rally around that cause, that people with dementia live incredible lives even as their disease progresses through their journey.
Yeah. Becky, Courtney, thanks so much for being with us. What an interesting topic. It's just, we could go forever on this. If you have a newsmaker in your town who you think we should have on this show, let us know about it. Send us an email to tips@wearegreenbay.com, or you can message us on Facebook. And be sure to join us once again Sunday morning at 7:30. Until then, have a great day.